October 13, 2025. A 75-year-old woman stands shackled in a purple jail jumpsuit. Her world of privilege, control, and designer handbags has just crumbled into concrete walls and steel bars forever. Donna Adelson, the matriarch who once orchestrated everything in her wealthy South Florida family, is about to learn that she no longer controls anything. Not even when she eats. Not even when she sleeps. But here's what will shock you. Many people believe life in prison is the more humane option compared to the death penalty. By the end of this video, you may realize life without parole isn't mercy. It's a slow execution. And I want you to comment below whether you agree or not after hearing what Donna faces every single day for the rest of her life. But first, let me tell you exactly what she did to deserve this living hell. Judge Stephen Everett didn't mince words. Life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 30 years for conspiracy and solicitation, to be served consecutively. In simple words, Donna Adelson will die behind bars. There is no hope, no parole hearing, no second chance. The judge interrupted her multiple times during sentencing as she proclaimed her innocence, warning that her statements showed an utter lack of remorse. She claimed she had never even gotten a parking ticket, yet here she was, convicted of orchestrating the murder for hire of her former son-in-law, Florida State University law professor Dan Markel, who was gunned down in his garage in July 2014. The evidence was overwhelming. Wiretaps, emails, phone calls. Jailhouse informants testified that Donna not only confessed to orchestrating the murder but tried to buy false testimony from behind bars. 5 people have now been convicted in this murder for hire plot. Her own son Charlie is serving life in a South Dakota prison. The hitman Sigfredo Garcia is serving life. The go-between Catherine Magbanua is serving life. All because Donna wanted her daughter Wendy and her grandchildren to move from Tallahassee to Miami, and Dan Markel stood in the way. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because what Donna is experiencing right now might actually be far worse than if she had received the death penalty. Less than 12 hours after her sentencing, at 5:48 a.m. on October 14, 2025, Donna was transferred into the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections. No more private attorneys visiting whenever she wants. No more phone calls to her husband Harvey at will. No more control. She was first taken to the Florida Women's Reception Center in Ocala for processing. This is where the reality truly sets in. Strip searches, delousing, fingerprinting, mugshots, being issued a DC number that replaces your name. Donna Adelson is no longer Donna Adelson. She is an inmate DC number, whatever they assigned her. In December 2025, she was moved to Homestead Correctional Institution in Miami-Dade County, closer to where her husband lives. And here's what makes this story even more heartbreaking for her. She's in the same facility where Catherine Magbanua, the go-between in the murder plot, is also serving life. The prosecution specifically asked the judge to try to ensure they don't cross paths. But in a prison environment, that's nearly impossible to guarantee. Now let me paint you a picture of what life is actually like inside Homestead Correctional Institution, because this is where things get truly disturbing. Homestead Correctional Institution sits on the edge of the Everglades in South Florida. It houses female inmates of minimum, medium, and close custody levels. The buildings are supposedly climate controlled. But here's the reality. A former inmate who spent 20 years there from 2004 to 2024 described temperature guns reading 118 degrees inside the facility. The ventilation ducts were so full of mold that it spread across the ceiling in black fingers. Women stripped down to their underwear and lay on tile floors under damp sheets just to survive. Florida prison rules require inmates to wear thick canvas work pants and scrub-style shirts from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. Imagine being 75 years old, wearing heavy canvas in 118-degree heat, while mold grows on the ceiling above you. The cells have jalousie windows that open with a hand crank, but there are no screens. Opening the windows means roaches, flies, mosquitoes, lizards, and rats invade the cells. Keep them closed and you suffocate in the heat. A 2024 lawsuit filed by the Florida Justice Institute on behalf of inmates at the neighboring Dade Correctional Institution alleges that extreme heat contributed to the deaths of 4 prisoners. Heat indexes in some Florida prisons can reach 150 degrees when it's over 100 degrees outside because the buildings trap heat. And only about 25% of housing units in Florida prisons are equipped with air conditioning. But the physical conditions are just the beginning. Wait until you hear about what happened to Donna before she was even convicted. Before her trial, Donna described her life behind bars during a pretrial hearing in March 2025. She was shaking and crying as she recounted being moved through phases of protective custody and living in an annex with 65 other women. She was assaulted multiple times. The first time was in the shower. All of a sudden I felt a hand go up my back from the top of my butt up my back. She testified, beginning to cry. When she screamed, the inmate ran away. Another assault allegedly occurred while she was brushing her teeth and led to ongoing extortion. Think about that. A 75-year-old woman, used to luxury and control, being groped in a prison shower, extorted while brushing her teeth, living in fear every single moment. And that was before she was even convicted. Now she's there permanently with a target on her back because of the high-profile nature of her case. And here's what will really change your perspective on life versus death. Let me tell you about what aging in prison actually means. Research shows that incarceration accelerates aging. Prisoners age 10 to 15 years faster than people on the outside. That means Donna's 75-year-old body is functioning like someone who is 85 or 90. Prisons classify inmates as elderly when they turn 50 because of this accelerated aging phenomenon. Why? Years of inadequate health care before prison, substance abuse for many inmates, poor nutrition, lack of sunlight, chronic stress, violence, and the constant state of hypervigilance required to survive. Donna will face chronic medical conditions that are common among older inmates: hypertension, diabetes, pulmonary disease, strokes, arthritis, asthma, depression, cognitive impairment. One study of female inmates over 50 found they have cognitive deterioration at a much faster rate than the general public because of trauma, substance abuse, and the conditions of incarceration itself. Healthcare providers in prisons report being shocked when they realize an inmate's actual age because they look and function like someone 15 years older. Here's the cruelest part. It costs twice as much to maintain an elderly inmate compared to a younger prisoner because of medical needs. But prisons were never designed to be nursing homes or hospices. There aren't enough medical staff. The care is inadequate. Inmates describe medical staff being dismissive of their needs. They run out of over-the-counter medications in confinement. Older inmates have to wait in long lines for medical care, standing for hours, which is excruciating when you have arthritis, diabetes, or heart problems. But here's what makes Donna's situation uniquely torturous. And this is what separates a life sentence from a death sentence in terms of pure psychological suffering. A jailhouse informant named Dina Bernhard, who became known as Donna's jail daughter, revealed in a November 2025 interview what Donna talks about constantly behind bars. She's deeply concerned about her husband Harvey's deteriorating physical and mental health. She worries he's lost significant weight and fallen into depression since her incarceration. She fears for Harvey's ability to manage basic daily tasks after more than 50 years of depending on her. Paying bills, doing laundry, cooking meals, things she always controlled. Donna also believes her daughter Wendy holds her responsible for the family's downfall. She feels that her vocal opposition to Dan Markel contributed to the tragic chain of events. Every single day, Donna wakes up and has to live with the knowledge that she destroyed her family. Her son Charlie is in prison in South Dakota. Her daughter won't speak to her. Her husband is deteriorating. Her grandchildren, the ones she claims she did all this for, will grow up knowing their grandmother orchestrated their father's murder. And here's the thing about a life sentence versus a death sentence. With a death sentence, there's an end date. Psychological research shows that humans can endure almost anything if they know when it will end. Death row inmates have something to prepare for mentally. But life without parole? That's waking up every single day for decades knowing this is your forever. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. No date to count down to. Just an endless parade of identical days until you die. And in case you think maybe she'll get some relief through appeals, let me tell you what's actually happening. In November 2025, Donna filed a notice of appeal. Her defense team requested a new trial, asking to interview 2 jurors while accusing the judge of favoring the prosecution. On September 26, 2025, Judge Everett denied her motion for a new trial. He denied her motion for acquittal. He denied her motion to interview jurors. Every single motion was rejected. The evidence against her was simply too strong. Charlie Adelson's trial had already laid out the entire conspiracy. The wiretaps of him discussing the murder, saying things like a problem that could go away for a price, the cash transfers, the timing of everything. And then Donna tried to flee to Vietnam, a country with no extradition agreement with the United States, on a one-way ticket. She was arrested at Miami International Airport in November 2023. That alone speaks volumes about consciousness of guilt. Her appeals will almost certainly fail. And even if by some miracle she got a new trial, the evidence would still be there. The 5 other people have already been convicted. The mountain of physical evidence. The testimony. She's not getting out. Ever. Now let me tell you about the daily routine that will be Donna's life until she dies. Because this is where you'll really understand why this might be worse than death. Donna wakes up whenever the prison decides, usually around 5 or 6 a.m. Breakfast is at a time she doesn't control, eating food she doesn't choose, sitting where she's told to sit. Then she returns to her cell. If she's lucky, she shares it with only one other person. If she's unlucky, it could be a dormitory-style setting with many women. Remember, Catherine Magbanua is in the same facility. Other inmates know exactly who Donna is. Some might sympathize. Others might see her as a target, someone who thinks she's better than them because she came from money. She has to ask permission to do everything. Use the phone? You get limited minutes and you have to follow the schedule. Take a shower? Only during designated times. Go outside for recreation? Only when allowed. Read a book? Only approved materials. Everything in prison is designed to strip you of autonomy, dignity, control. For someone like Donna, who spent her entire life controlling everything and everyone around her, this is psychological torture. Visitation at Homestead is on Saturdays, Sundays, and approved holidays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Harvey can visit, but he has to go through an approval process, schedule appointments a week in advance, drive to a prison, submit to searches, and sit in a visiting room with dozens of other inmates and their visitors. No privacy, no intimacy, just supervised conversations in a crowded room for a few hours before he drives home alone. And here's something most people don't think about when they imagine life in prison: the sheer boredom and monotony. Days blend into weeks, months blend into years. There's no variety. The same walls, the same faces, the same food, the same sounds, the same smells. Humans are not designed for this level of monotony. It breaks something in the mind. Inmates describe a kind of psychological death that happens long before physical death. They call it being institutionalized. You lose the ability to imagine a future because there is no future. You exist in an eternal present that never changes. Donna has access to some programming, vocational training in cosmetology or entrepreneurship. But what's the point when you're never getting out? Religious services, educational programs. These things help pass the time, but they can't change the fundamental reality. She will never see a sunset over the ocean again. Never enjoy a meal at a nice restaurant. Never go shopping. Never feel grass under her feet. Never hug her grandchildren. Never sleep in her own bed. Every single thing she used to do freely is gone forever. Now here's where I want you to really think about this question. Is this better or worse than a death sentence? With the death penalty, you have a finite amount of suffering. Yes, death row is horrible. Yes, the appeals process can take decades. Yes, there's the psychological torture of knowing your execution date. But it ends. And here's what's interesting. Many death row inmates report having found peace, religion, purpose, even from behind bars, because they know their time is limited. Some have written books, inspired others, made amends with their families, prepared spiritually for death. There's a framework for processing what's happening. But life without parole? That's watching yourself slowly deteriorate, physically and mentally, in a hostile environment, for decades, with no purpose and no hope. It's watching your spouse age and die, possibly before you, and not being able to be there. It's watching your children and grandchildren live their entire lives through brief phone calls and occasional visits until they stop coming altogether because it's too painful. It's becoming invisible to the world while still being conscious and aware of your own irrelevance. As of January 2026, Donna is still at Homestead Correctional Institution. Her appeals are proceeding, but legal experts give them almost no chance of success. Harvey is still visiting when he can, but friends report he's deteriorating rapidly, just as Donna feared. The case remains in headlines because it captivated the nation. The wealthy South Florida family who thought they were above the law. The murder for hire plot. The custody battle that ended in death. 5 people convicted. And at the center of it all, a grandmother who believed she could control everything, even life and death. So I ask you this. Knowing everything you now know about what Donna Adelson faces every single day for the rest of her natural life, do you still think life in prison is more merciful than the death penalty? Because she will spend the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 years if she's unlucky enough to live that long, in heat, in fear, in pain, in monotony, watching her body and mind deteriorate, powerless and forgotten, until one day she dies alone in a prison hospital or her cell. No funeral arrangements she can control. No final words to her family in private. Just another dead inmate whose body gets processed and released to whoever claims it. Some people say life in prison gives you time to reflect, repent, find meaning. But from everything we know about elderly inmates and life without parole, it's more often a living death. The body continues functioning long after the spirit has broken. You become a ghost, haunting the same halls day after day, invisible to the world, irrelevant to everyone, including yourself. Donna Adelson orchestrated a murder and destroyed countless lives, including her own family. She deserves to be punished. But is this level of suffering for decades, this slow death by 1,000 humiliations, actually more just than a swift execution? Or is it just more cruel in a different way? Comment below. Do you think what Donna faces every day is better or worse than the death penalty? Because after hearing all this, I bet your answer might surprise you. And if you found this deep dive into the reality of life imprisonment valuable, make sure to subscribe because we'll be following this case as it continues to develop through 2026 and beyond. The judge said the evidence was clear. The jury said she was guilty. But the punishment? That's something she'll be experiencing every waking moment for the rest of her life. And unlike a death sentence, there's no end in sight. Just an endless gray horizon of concrete walls and steel bars until her body finally gives out. That's the reality of life without parole. And whether it's more or less humane than the death penalty, well, that's for you to decide.